Okay, so I want to talk relatively briefly about how we could do a better selection. I know the videos I sent have solid backgrounds, and that's a common thing. And I think at least one of them talked about you do it because it just makes demonstration earlier easier. It really is. It doesn't help you when you're trying to figure it out. Just to show you where I'm at with this, I need to feather just a tad more so we get less of a white edge, and I have some thoughts on how to do that. But that's a little cleaner cutout. We're getting a little bleed with the color, but it's a lot cleaner than it was before. So I just want to walk you through kind of how I got there. There's a couple different things we could do. So going back to Photoshop here, so the thing, and you can see my paths that are in here. It took me a couple tries to do it. So the thing that I used to do pre the selection tool was actually to use the lasso and carefully go around the object. So what I would do is actually come into this level and with the lasso go and carefully go around this object. The challenge with that is that if you accidentally double click, it closes your path and then you have to start over, which is, I can't even tell you, beyond irritating. The nice part though is you have more control. Okay, so you have the ability to really go in and, depending on level of patience, really get the selection you want. Hair is still a challenge. Hair has always been a challenge. Hair will probably always be a challenge, even with the AI. There's just certain things that are limitations. So I could continue to go around this whole object really carefully. It's very painstaking. It can be frustrating, especially the first couple times you do it. And again, you could get, I did it a couple times earlier before I just surrendered, where I just accidentally double clicked. That's a compulsion you have to break, and since I haven't had to do this consistently in a very long time, I haven't broken myself of the habit. Again, I'm going to get as close as I can. I can always tweak this later, but at least it'll get it started. It'll make it a little easier. You'll have a lot more control. I would say, like with the palm, give up the idea that you have to have the whole palm. If you miss like a piece of it, um, the world won't end. No one's gonna know that like you cut it off. That's the beauty of that object, as much as it also is a bad shape to try to get around because it's not an easy shape to go across. Just embrace that you don't necessarily have to do that. I'm gonna keep going around here. Maybe it'll cooperate for me this time. But this is just one way to do it, to really have some control. Again, it's very painstaking. It takes forever. You see why people were excited when we got the other selection tools that you're more familiar with, because this really did take forever. The other issue I'm having is like I haven't looked at the photo a lot, so I made some mistakes the first time in trying to select this. Um, so that was the thing. I'm less careful here with the palm because I know it's still gonna most likely look okay no matter what. Um, we're gonna go through. Again, I can always come back and tweak this, but this is a way to give yourself a little more control. Again, hair has always been a problem. Because it's so unpredictable, but I'm gonna get as close as I can right now. I can always come back and edit this later. I just want to get it accomplished. Maybe it will. Maybe that act of recording will help. Unfortunately, normally people speed this up. It just takes a long time. Like, this is the downside of doing something like this in a demo, is that it just takes forever. That's why people pick easy shapes when they're doing demos or clean backgrounds, is they don't want to have to speed up the video, but they also don't want to keep you watching for an inordinate amount of time. So that's why they pick simplified things they know will work really easily. is so that they can have the video be a reasonable length and not ridiculously long. Again, I'm not being quite as careful as I would be, but the palm, I guess, is more forgiving to me of a shape. So keep that in mind. And there are definitely parts where the resolution and the brightness of your screen will be beneficial to make sure you can see everything. Because especially the palm is against like a darker background, it becomes harder to see. I still can't tell if this, I feel like that white shouldn't be part of it, but I'm not 100% sold on that subject. It's just a little hard to tell. Again, if you're at the game, you might have a better idea what these things look like. I don't know. So like here I might choose, this piece is clearly part of the palm, I think, but I'm going to just edit it out. So do keep in mind that a few minor edits of things that are just really hard to get to fit will help make it better. But this is probably the way you can have the most control of the shape of any of the selection tools that are built into Photoshop. Because the magnetic lasso is a pain to work with. That one's the one I feel like is the least cooperative. Even with the new AI system, it's still a struggle to really do this. And the only nice part though is the palm's black, and what you're putting it on is probably black, so that'll help too. So the palm is not the part you need to worry about as much as all the other clothing. And we're having the issue too that at the edge you're getting colors are bleeding a little bit, which is somewhat unavoidable. Especially the white color. So I'm going to ignore all these little tiny hairs here that we're seeing. I'm trying to stay on the side where I have the color and lose the black, but I might have to go back and tweak this. So I might actually just simplify her hair a little bit here in a way that makes the most sense for me. Again, these areas that are darker actually are better than the light areas because you are going against a dark background, so it's not going to matter as much. I'm going to edit out as much of these little sort of flyaways as I viably can without it looking bad. Close to her. The nice part is I'm not cutting her out all together, so I can pick a point that makes the most sense because her hair was more flyaway on the other side of this than on this side, so there's some wiggle room here. And in mine, I went to about the halfway point of her. I'm going to hold shift here to make sure I get that line clean. You're going to have a hard time getting the line clean otherwise. And just do that to go all the way around the shape and close it because I want to make sure I properly close it. And yes, I will say this changes how you look at people after a while. So I've got the marching ants is what people usually call it. It looks pretty good. I'm going to come over here to paths. Hopefully that's Photoshop, unlike Illustrator and InDesign doesn't have modes. And I'm gonna go to make work path, and then I'll say the tolerance is 1 pixel, and then I'm gonna get a path around here. If I don't like this path while it's a work path, I can come down here to the direct selection tool and I can actually manipulate this path. So let's say like now I go back and I zoom in and I look to see like if anything just looks out of place now that it's blue. So like here, this is a little not close to the hair. So I, just like in Illustrator, I can come in and I can tweak this path and really perfect what I want. I can change the Bezier handles. Like it really at this point works just like a path in Illustrator, only we're here in Photoshop. Did not want to delete that anchor point. So you could add points, you can manipulate as you need to here, and tweak it. So I can go back along here now and see, okay, maybe I didn't quite hit where I want to get on the right side of this. To really look at this in terms of the items, minimize it if I need to, move it over if I need to, like, hey, that should really be there. All right, so I can fuss over it as much as I want. When I'm happy with it, then I could do make selection, but what I want to do is save path. So this will be path 3 because I've put it in multiple times. So I've gone ahead and it's now path 3. And it's a path that InDesign can see. The reason I do this rather than cutting away the image is it's non-destructive. So if I need to do, like I've made a couple attempts at this, I can keep doing that without having to start over with the photo because it hasn't hurt the photo. It also means if I change my mind later that I don't have to delete this and start again. You know, so I could use the whole photo if I decide that. And then looking at going into InDesign just to show you how this works. So I've already placed this. It's the same photo. Let me just go back in Photoshop and make sure I saved it. Because I realized I don't think I did. Okay. So I'm going to come back here in InDesign. Same photo. I've already placed it, gotten it sized correctly. But how did I do this path? How did I use this one? So I came up here to object and went down to clipping path and options. Because I already have a path selected, this is in place and that's how I put it. But one thing I need to do first, I need to update the link. So when you save something, and I think I talked about this in another video, you do need to come here and refresh it, get rid of that yellow triangle, make that go away. Now I can do object clipping path options, and I'm going to select. So to start with, I went and selected Photoshop path, and then it gives me any path. You should only have one. I'm going to say path 3. I can preview it if I want, and I can say okay. And now that's in there. So you can see I got a little better from path 2 to path 3. Pretty close. She's always going to look like she's standing out just a tad against the background. But if I did want, you do see there's all these points. I could come in here and I could tweak it further if I want to edit these points. Like I'm not, you know, I see now that I'm not totally happy with it. I could come in using my direct selection tool and modify it accordingly and make it what I want. There was another weird spot here where I'm getting, so it's just the colors bleed a lot in the photos is part of the problem. So I could come in here and keep playing with this, or like here we get a little of the background, a little more than we actually want of the background. So we can come in and perfect that in here if we want. But it is always, because black is just sharp, it's going to look a little bit like it's sticking out, but it's not going to be bad. Let me go to 100%. Like at 100%, it doesn't look terrible. It actually looks not horrible. I would have to tweak that too. But that's how you can make the path. The other option, to go back to Photoshop just to show you if you don't want to be that painstaking. So what I would do, I want that clean line that I've had in the past. So what I would actually probably do is start with a selection tool like this, select most of the photo, and then go to the quick selection tool. Starting with, I would have it large enough that I'm moving over a decent amount of area, and I would just being very careful that don't want to lose that hard line at the top, and just going through and carefully selecting what I need to with this, and hopefully what I don't need to gets left. So it likes to pull this part, and this likes to give her like a little bump. So I'm going to come in here, and then I'm holding the Option or Control on a PC to get rid of parts of it. So it's pretty good, I will say. Like, as hard as this photo is, it's pretty good that when we go tighter that it follows pretty well. And I can add pieces back in. What I would do at this point when I'm doing the small measurements, just go really tight on size and zoom in so I can really see what I'm doing. So again, if I have to leave that little part of the palm because it's the only way I easily get stuff, that's totally fine. I can add other parts back in, take out parts. So this is definitely faster. I'm doing the fun teacher trick where I tell you the hard way first and then give you an easier option. So again, you're just gonna have to keep playing with it until you get the AI as close to what you want as possible. This is the downside of the AI, is it's only so smart. I also feel like that's not her palm. And maybe I'm wrong, and maybe that is, but it feels not the same. So I'm getting rid of the part I don't need here. Only nice part about this one over the other is undo allows you to go back when you make a mistake. A little closer here on her shirt. It's going to take a couple potentially. Add a little bit here. Again, I'm probably going to edit out a little of the pom-pom just because it's going to be necessary to get this in better. And then I might say here, I need a little more of this. Tiny bit more of this. So I'm gonna get in there as close as I can. I can also keep losing my mouse. I could use the feather. Probably don't want to get 5 pixels, but click OK. And again, I could deselect the option, so I could do more like what it looks like you guys have been doing, which is come up here to select inverse and then delete. And in this case, we'll just do content aware. Oops. Not what I wanted it to do. I just want it to delete. So I guess we'll have it delete to foreground color. Pattern history, but let's just delete to white for your purposes. Or, well, you know what? Let's actually delete to black. Because you're going to put it, if you're going to put it on a black background, we might as well get it there to start with. So you could do this and see, I mean, the nice part too with this is you can better see kind of where you're at with it. So actually that's not bad. But if you wanted to instead, I could go back here and again follow that process and make a work path so that it's non-destructive and I can come back to it. So I make the work path, then I save the path. Okay, then I can go ahead and save the file, come back to InDesign, and then again I could go in, and this time I'll change it over to that last path I made with the clipping path options. Go to Photoshop, path. Oh. It helps if I remember I have to update my link first. So I'm going to go to Photoshop path, select path 4. Okay. And then again, if I do notice an issue, I could go in and edit that, but that's actually a lot closer right now to it. Pretty good there. The other piece of advice I'd have, and I'll make a separate video, is right now this photo, if I look at it in Photoshop, number one, it's RGB. You want all your images in CMYK, but I also suspect, yeah, it's at 72, but it's very large. So we'll talk in a separate video how to format the photos appropriately, but at least that would get you started. Those are a couple techniques you can use. Again, it takes practice, to be 100% honest. Like, it looks easier when I do it because 20 years of practice. But it just takes some practice. But this is where the non-destructive path is nice, because I can, instead of having to keep reopening an image, I can just keep tweaking the path until I get it where I want.